What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. Brian Hines here, joined as always with Alex Barth after a competitive practice here, which unfortunately, Barth, we can't really talk about because we are back to regular season rules. So we have some notes on attendance and some early positional drills stuff from the beginning of practice, and that was marked by a return to the practice field by rookie wide receiver Kyle Williams. Haven't seen him in about a week since he took that big shot in the Minnesota game, so good to see Kyle Williams back out there. What do you think that kind of brings back to this wide receiver room now?
Well, I just think the big thing for Kyle Williams, we've seen, and Patriots fans have seen, what missing the beginning of a season can do to a young wide receiver, rookie wide receiver. I'm not saying these guys would have worked out one way or another, but remember N'Keal Harry sprains his ankle in Detroit. They put him back in the game. He misses time in camp, and he was kind of behind the sticks getting started in his career. Tyquan Thornton twice missed the beginning of the season. And again, doesn't mean those guys would have been great if they'd played, but there was, visible evidence that impacted their ability to hit the ground running. You really didn't want to see Kyle Williams do the same thing. He was out here today. He was running around. Like, he wasn't just out here standing around, right? Like, he was part of practice. So I think it's just good for him that he gets back with 2 weeks to go until the opener, and he's going to be able to get in the mix, and he's not missing significant time. Ideally, he would have missed none, but I was getting nervous that, is he going to miss games? Is he somebody who potentially goes on IR? Also now, he's not going to need that IR spot. That hopefully keeps it open for Kendrick Bourne, Jelani Tavai, whoever they want to put in that spot. So it's good news that he's back. It's probably not as big of a deal that he missed as much time as he did, but it was getting close to the time where it was going to be a big deal that he'd missed that much time.
Yeah, just the mental side of the game, especially in this Josh McDaniels offense. All the reps, adjusting to life with Drake May, all the reps matter. And we never got official word, if it was a concussion, but those could have potentially lingered into the regular season. So good that Kyle Williams was back out there. You mentioned that maybe that IR spot is open for some of these other guys. A good list of absences today ahead of roster cutdown day. Now, a lot of it were those injured players, right? Christian Gonzalez, Jalen Polk, Jelani Tavai, guys we haven't seen in a while. But a couple interesting ones with Marcus Epps, Jack Gibbons, and then on the offensive line, Layden Robinson and Cole Strange. We've since learned Layden Robinson has been released with an injury designation, so he could potentially be back. If he claims waivers, he would get placed on IR, so we're not going to see Layden Robinson on the field. But some interesting guys out, especially on the offensive line, Cole Strange being the other big one there. Yeah,
and he's right there on that bubble, right? So I don't know. I'll say it was pretty competitive practice. I was going to say, I don't know how much, feels like the decision should be made up. What you're seeing today should ultimately make or break it, but if he's dealing with something, that's not going to help his case, right? So, right on the bubble, to me, is in the 48 to 54 player range, somewhere in there, 56, 58 player range. I guess 54 would be the first player off. I think I had him as my... I think I'm just 56 on my last roster projection. So right there on the bubble, if he's banged up, that's obviously, it's not going to help. So, and we'll see. It does seem like they're going to kind of give us these cuts as we go. I don't think it's going to be, we already know it's not going to be the full list at 4 p.m. on Tuesday because Mike Vrabel told us 14 last week, and now here's another, and Cole Strange is a player to keep an eye on.
Yep. So we'll see with the interior of the offensive line there. Just... He had a tough game against Minnesota.
He did.
And, it seemed like even before that, he was clearly jumped by Ben Brown. They bring in Garrett Bradbury and Jarrett Wilson this offseason, so it looks like the Cole Strange era might officially be over. One other name in that, group of non-injured guys or guys we didn't know were dealing with an injury, it kind of stood out to me, Jack Gibbons, because that's a Vrabel guy. Do you think
that might just be an injury?
Do you think it is an injury? Because, there could still be an injury involved. Do you think that's an injury?
They don't have enough linebackers.
I know.
They can't.
You wouldn't think
unless
so.
They're going to go somewhere else and get an external linebacker. It's Spillane,
Mapu,
who's been better, but even he's on the bubble. And any of the guys that were here pre-Vrabel, I'm not penciling in, right? We've seen he wants to turn the roster over. It's Gibbons, it's Ellis. That's kind of it,
that is
right?
It.
So that's a spot where they definitely could look externally, but you move on from Gibbons. That's getting. They're already razor thin. I don't know what a step beyond razor thin is. The one guy I look at on that list that maybe being a roster thing is Epps. He looked like he was right on the bubble. Kyle Duggar seemingly trending in the right direction. Maybe that's a sign that they're feeling better about that position. No, Gibbons to me. Now, the flip side of that is, okay, if he wasn't out here because he got cut, probably means he is hurt. It's not a guy they can afford to lose.
Yeah.
Right. So or even week one, they don't, he's not a guy, all right, he'll be inactive this week. Somebody else will fill in. Who?
I think it's Mapu.
Well, he was yes or no for a roster spot. So now are you going to have to dedicate a roster spot for a guy just to have enough depth in week one. You ideally don't want to do that. Maybe that could be a practice squad elevation, but he's one to watch one way or the other, Gibbons.
Yeah, it was a thin position, and to lose a potential contributor, he wasn't a starter. It's Spillane and Ellis, but, to lose a level of depth, the guy who's familiar in that defense could be pretty significant. You mentioned external additions. There sounds like there could be some trade movement going around, and ESPN's Jeremy Fowler listed 2 Patriots potential trade candidates on the current roster, Vidarian Lowe and DeMontre Jacobs, which some people listening might be like, who wants those 2 players based off some of the performance we've seen on the field, especially last year. But Barth, I think this speaks to the lack of NFL tackle depth across the NFL. So do you think, with Marcus Bryant seemingly like he has that stranglehold on the number 3 tackle, do you think they potentially could move on from Vidarian Lowe and trade Jacobs? Or are they in a position to even move on from one of those 2 guys right now?
So it depends. Like, obviously, that both those guys are going to have a little bit of value, I would think. Maybe it's not trade value. Maybe it's waiver wire, or I'd expect them to be collecting an NFL paycheck next year on a roster or on a practice
for
squad.
Someone else who's going to get cut on another team.
Yeah, maybe. I just think they started a full year, and to your point, or almost a full year, there's not a lot of tackle depth in the league. The team might look at that and say, okay, well, this guy at least knows what he's doing if we put him out there. He's been out there before like that. Yeah, maybe that's where you get a linebacker, because I think you're going to get – there's more positional value with the tackles, so you should get a higher caliber player, linebacker or corner or tight end, like whatever you can find for that. I would be very surprised if they keep both of them. Like you said, Marcus Bryant's that third guy. I think they probably want to keep 4 tackles. You got 2 rookies and a 34-year-old. Probably want to add another tackle there. So let's say they're leaning low, which is what it looks like. If somebody's going to give you something for Vidarian Lowe, is that enough to swing it and say, okay, well, we can just keep Lowe and cut Jacobs? Or we can trade Lowe, get something in, keep Jacobs. Or, and I'm still not ruling this out. I had this in my last roster projection. I think the 4th tackle's on another team right now. I think there's going to be a 4th tackle. I think it's somebody who's not here. You'd rather trade a guy than cut him, right? So if you know you're going to move on from Jacobs and Lowe, again, these are guys that started a full year. You're going to call around the league and at least see if you can get something for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still kind of iffy with Lowe, I think, because, again, you don't want him starting 16, 17 games, right? But he has plenty of experience, and if you need him in a pinch, like – I would probably feel more comfortable with him at this point than going to get an external addition on the wire or something.
So the problem is he's just a left tackle.
That's also true. But yeah, Marcus Bryant.
Right, it's just tough to justify. So he's going to be your ninth
lineman.
9th or 10th lineman. That guy being a one-position player is just, it's tough to justify. So if you can get a player that maybe is a tiny bit below but can play both sides, that might be preferable. I got some tweets about Leo Collins, who got cut before this. Like, I don't know that you're going there. That's a guy that hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah.
But the versatility, if they're going to keep 4 tackles, the versatility is going to be a huge part of the value of that 4th guy. And Vidarian Lowe, from what we've seen, doesn't give you that. They've repped him a little bit at right tackle this summer. I don't think it's gone great. If they feel differently, then yeah, you keep him. But I would think in that spot you want more of a true swing tackle.
Or it opens... If they really view Marcus Bryant as a swing, like maybe it opens the door for Caden Wallace to cement himself on the roster.
Right, and now he's like guard tackle versatility.
I don't think he's repped that tackle at all this summer.
Not that I remember.
But he's played it.
If in an emergency, he can do it.
In an absolute emergency in a game, if you lose a couple guys, like maybe Caden Wallace can bump out and you get to keep him around there. So we'll watch with some potential trades. Another guy, Kendrick Bourne, we've talked a lot about a trade. He still wasn't out here today. Efton Chisholm in the wide receiver room also wasn't out here today. Those 2 guys still coming back from injury. So anything else from attendance or ahead of roster cuts here?
I think that pretty much covers it. We'll have another show tomorrow. It'll probably be a quick one like this. But
unfortunately, because we don't get to report on the whole practice, our Plugger of the Day race is over.
So Plugger is over. I don't have the list in front of me, so I don't remember who won. So you're going to have to tune in tomorrow. Unless you've been keeping notes on your own, which good for you. That's a P1 right there. That's an A1 listener. We'll have the plugger of the summer for you tomorrow.
I think it's Drake, but we will
tune in tomorrow to find out
with the full reveal tomorrow. So make sure you guys are locked on to Patriots Press Pass. Like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you know when we are going live or posting videos right here from Gillette Stadium. You can also follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com for all his Patriots updates, and you can follow me on Twitter at IamBrianHines, and head over to patspulpit.com for all updates through roster cuts. And of course, head over to Prize Picks this regular season. Promo code CLNS. Just play $5 and get $50 instantly, all over on Prize Picks. So that'll do it for us today. Again, make sure you guys are locked on to Patriots Press Pass for all Patriots content, and we will see you guys soon.